What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Jump Master X podcast, where we break down what actually works if you want to jump higher, move better, and stay bouncy. So, today we're going to be diving into a pretty cool topic. Do you actually need to deadlift to jump higher? So, I've got Tom with me. Like, I'm sure you guys know Tom. Highest jumper in Australia, 48-inch vertical, deadlifts 4 times your body weight, right?
Correct.
Not even exaggerating. Pretty much like freak status. But the question is, deadlifts essential to jump higher, or are they something that's just optional?
Right.
So, what have been your experiences with deadlifting? Because you've done a lot of deadlifts, Tom, throughout your jumping career. What are your thoughts on them?
I think just like anything in jump training, they're a tool you can use. Now, do you need to necessarily deadlift as much and as frequent as I do to jump higher to reach your athletic potential? I would argue probably not. Now, one thing I will say is obviously we're talking about, I'm assuming you're talking about conventional deadlifts. Sumo deadlifts, they definitely would have their place in someone's jump training at some point in time, but it'd be a very specific person for a specific niche, when that would be used. But I'm assuming we're strictly talking about just like conventional, deadlifts, like hip width stance sort of thing.
Yeah. Conventional deadlifts, like for sure, like they mostly hit your glutes, hamstrings, lower back to a smaller degree, hopefully, if you're doing them correctly, than your glutes and hamstrings. But they're definitely hitting your lower back, and your erectors will grow from them, your lower back muscles. You'll see anyone that deadlifts consistently, they'll have massive lower back muscles or erector muscles, which I don't know if that looks aesthetic or not. I guess it's personal preference, but that's just what happens. But
Yeah.
essentially,
Yeah.
yeah, essentially these are all crucial muscles for generating a powerful hip extension, which is needed for jumping higher and is a key player towards maximizing your vertical, whether you're doing a 1 foot jump, 2 foot jump, standing jump. Now, these jump styles will definitely emphasize these muscle groups more than the other, depending on how you're jumping, but all use your posterior chain. So deadlifts, they carry over to power cleans as well. That's another thing that I like about them. They
Yep.
help with pulling from the floor. I know when I deadlifted consistently back in 2023, like doing power cleans, and if I was deadlifting 180 for or 190 for fives and doing a 90, 100 kilo power clean, almost felt like nothing. And I definitely got quite good intent on them. What about you, Tom? What are your experiences with that?
In terms of translating over to my power clean, I would say it has less transfer compared to something like a clean pull. Now, for those that don't know what a clean pull is, or like a high clean pull, anything like of that variation, it's pretty much a clean stance. So your feet are about the same width as a clean, and you're pulling it as high as you can, but you don't actually get under the bar. And typically, you would do it with more weight than you can obviously power clean. And this is like Austin said, it's very good for generating that off the floor full power and a little bit more towards the strength side. I've found that those I'd say have a better transfer to my power clean. And I've started doing those with squat shoes on. I used to just do it, in socks or whatever, like I would with my deadlifts, but I want to make it more quad dominant, translate a little bit better to my jumping. So when I do clean pulls, power cleans, even now, hang cleans, any Olympic lifting variation, I will do it in squat shoes.
No, for sure. How do you feel like deadlifting has impacted your vertical, Tom? Like direct.
Okay, yeah. Okay. Yeah, no, that's a good question. I would say, obviously, short term, I would argue if you want to decrease your vert the most in one day, go and max out your deadlift or hit like a 5 rep max or something. Because it absolutely fries your CNS. And I notice if I go really hard on deadlifts, that obviously drops off, tapers off, but it's part of the game, of course. But in terms of long-term progression, I think it definitely has its place. I feel that for your lower back, especially a conventional deadlift, with a little bit of, it's going to load your lower back more than a sumo, right? I think it's very beneficial because it's going to allow you to build core strength. It's going to allow you to build lower back strength. Like you said before, the erectors literally have no choice but to get bigger. If you look at mine, they're very developed. That's because, I obviously deadlift quite frequently and a decent amount of weight for my body weight. So I think in terms of translating it over to squat, it can have some level of transfer just in terms of, again, the lower back, keeping it nice and rigid and keeping, the upright posture. And I think if I just did squats, by themselves, I'd still have a very good squat, but I think I wouldn't have that rigidity and be able to lift as much as I do. Obviously, the 200 kilo beltless squat.
Yeah. So do you feel like if you didn't deadlift, you would be jumping as high?
If I didn't deadlift for a week, to 2 weeks, I think I could like peak my vert out because obviously, like I said before, the deadlifts have a toll, and that toll, the price you have to pay, is quite high. The tax on a deadlift is quite high. But like I said, if I take it out of my program, that's probably when I'd peak. Dunk Camp 2023, I took them out. I did deadlift for like week and a half to 2.5 weeks before then, and then peaked at dunk camp. I had my highest jumps at that time in 2023. If I want to jump my highest, I take them out. I let my body recover. I let my CNS recover, my lower back, because they obviously fry your lower back. The muscles are always fatigued. That's how I'll peak my vert. But if we're talking long term, 100%, I think they've helped my vert. Whether that's because it's helped my back squat get stronger or my front squat get stronger because of the points I made earlier, or maybe just because it's a very good exercise, pulling some heavy weight off the floor, that triple extension. Well, not triple extension, but that hip extension. Um, it could be a multifactorial reason.
Yeah, just thinking about it now, like it hits the posterior chain quite a lot, but also you get a lot of trap involvement as well, which can indirectly help arm swing. Because this,
Yeah.
like, you're talking about how it taxes you so much, and the reason for that is because of the sheer amount of muscle groups you're using and the amount of weight you're lifting. Like, it's like I don't think there's an exercise you can lift more weight with. Like maybe hip thrust, maybe like deadlift, like in
Yeah, but
terms
I'd
of
argue hip thrust is like, it's kind of like, there's obviously less range of motion and you're not hitting all your muscle groups. I think deadlift, a conventional deadlift, there's just nothing like it. Like you're pulling that thing off the floor, you got to move it a decent amount of distance. You got to involve your quads, your glutes, your hamstrings, even calves to an extent, lower back, traps, upper back, even arms, bro. Like just trying to grip it as well, forearms, everything, man. It's crazy.
no, for sure. For sure. Like it's one of those things that because it's so taxing, 'cause the amount of muscle groups you're using, the sheer amount of weight you're lifting. When I was doing them consistently, I was programming them after my dunk session, and I could do that because it's not a crazy amount of loading on the quadricep or the knee, so it didn't really impact that too much. And yeah, the dunk session might impact it the deadlifts a little bit, but if I did it right after the dunk session, then I could go straight into recovery. And then there was a whole 7 days between that period and me dunking again. So it didn't really impact my dunk sessions at all, which was quite an effective strategy, actually.
I remember when I was writing your program once, I remember I gave you 5x5 deadlift. Um, yeah. And like I was saying before, if you want to lower your vert real quick, go do some heavy ass deadlifts. And I remember when you did that 5x5 deadlift, maybe it was 3x5, I can't remember, but it was heavy and you were going hard on every set, like RP 8 and above. I remember your vert, um, it didn't go up. Say that.
Yeah, but months later it did. Months later it did. Once I super compensated, got out of that fatigue hole.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a
Yeah.
crazy, crazy time, bro. Crazy. I don't think I've ever trained harder. But after that, like after that period, like when I kind of offloaded a bit and my training was easier, then I had some of my best jumping ever, especially when I started getting faster and more explosive to complement that strength. It worked very, very well. But one other thing as well, I know Jordan, he deadlifted a lot back in the day, and that it actually helped him quite a lot get his
Yep.
vertical up. I believe that's one of the things that inspired you to actually start deadlifting, right, Tom?
Yeah, bro. I mean, I feel like we would have talked about this at some point. I'm sure it's definitely come up, but yeah, I'll say it again. But yeah, there's this video. I remember Jordan Kilgannon, he did a bulk. It must have been around COVID time, like 2020, maybe late 2020. And Kilgannon, one of the coaches here at Jump Master X, he did a bulk. And I remember during that time, obviously all of his other lifts went up, but he released this video and it was just him deadlifting. I think he worked up to like 500 and something pounds. So it's like, I don't know what that is in kilo, whatever it is in kilo, 500 something pounds. And he maxed out in his shed and he was playing hard style. And I just thought it was like the sickest thing ever. And then I got addicted to deadlifting in like late 2020, early 2021. And that's kind of just, what I've really enjoyed doing since then, just blasting music and, deadlifting. He even said that it definitely helped his vertical, maybe not in the short term, but during that time, his off vert got really good. Even though he was heavier, I think he done like 10.6 or 10.7 off vert on an outdoor stiff rim, if I remember correctly from one of the videos shortly after that. So definitely helped him. Short term, helped him long term. And he used it as a tool. It's not like you have to deadlift. It's not like you have to squat. It's just what you need at a certain given time.
Yeah, plus it's super fun lifting a shit ton of weight as well and blasting hard
Yeah.
style, right?
Yeah. Sometimes like it's not even like that deep. It's literally just fun. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think Hack. I know maybe it was on that other podcast you did or we did the in person one. Someone asked like, "What do you think about before you deadlift?" Or like, "Do you get in some sort of zone or whatever?" Really, for me right now, it's just fun. I just love deadlifting. Favorite exercise by a country mile.
Yeah, no, for sure. For sure. I think it's one of those things where it's a very effective tool if you lack strength, and strength is one of those things you need to work on the most as an athlete. And say you need to work on your posterior chain strength, it's definitely a very effective tool and one of the best tools you can use to help improve those qualities of getting stronger and improving your posterior chain strength. Like remaining in deadlifts are good as well, but it gets to a point
For
where
sure.
like I've ran into issues where, like in terms of loading it, like it becomes a little bit difficult trying to put 200 kilos on the bar and repping it for 5 reps.
Facts.
You know,
Yeah. Yeah. Bro, I remember I just randomly added in RDLs during one of my blocks, maybe I don't know, let's say 6 months to 8 months ago. And I was doing 8 reps, and I was just doing once a week, RDLs once a week, on top of my deadlifts. So I had an RDL day and I had a deadlift day, and I remember I got up to a set of 8 at 210 kg, and I remember the next day when I woke up, my hamstrings, bro, I actually felt like they were like in pieces. I've never had hamstring DOMs like that before. So I mean, obviously I was hitting the right muscles, but the DOMs were crazy, man.
no, for sure. The other cool thing about deadlifting too is it's like concentric only, really. No one really, and I
Yeah.
wouldn't even encourage someone to control the eccentric. So it's more concentric only, meaning like you're only really kind of worried about lifting the weight up and then you drop it after. And
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
so that's where if you're lacking strength, you're lacking that concentric ability to produce force. A very effective tool. Even trap bar deadlifts are quite good as well. The only issue because they involve more of the quadriceps, so you could say they're more jump specific for that reason, and they may or may not have more transfer. The answer is a little bit unclear there. You could say deadlifting is a little bit more general and it's good at building more general strength. But in terms of the trap
Yeah.
bar, deadlift is more concentric only. You're getting a bit more of the quadriceps. But the issue with that is the amount, because you can lift more because you're deadlifting from a higher position. It gets quite hard to load. Like for someone that, like you, Tom,
Yeah.
that can squat 190, for someone like even like me that can squat 160, 165. But I can max out most trap bars pretty easily. It's quite an
Oh,
easy
without a doubt,
lift.
bro, for reps as well. Yeah,
And
without a doubt.
that's not even flexing. That's just how it is. It's like I ran into the same issue with hip thrusts. Like I just this is getting far too frustrating
Mm,
trying to load 250 on the bar and repping it, for 5. So that's where you have to
bro,
go single leg to decrease the loading and you
it
start
gets a
running
bit
into
like that.
issues. But deadlifting, it's harder to reach that point because there's not many people deadlifting 300, 310, 320, like you, Tom.
Mm. Bro, I'd even like I don't want to talk in absolutes, but I'd say if you're like an advanced athlete in terms of jump training, like you're, decently strong, you're repping out over 1.5 times your body weight, deadlifting 3 times whatever. I'd go as to say that trap bar deadlifts, using them for strength is almost useless, to be honest. Because, I'd rather you just do a squat, like an upright squat, get those quads and glutes going, do an RDL, some kind of variation. I'd rather you split those into two, focus on both qualities separately, and try and like combine them in this weird lift. And if I was going to use a trap bar for a more elite athlete, use it in a different way, maybe for like more power stuff, like continuous jumps loaded or just like regular squat jumps, something of that nature. I feel that would be a better use for someone like myself or someone like, Gilgannon or you.
Yeah, no, for sure. I do like using trap bar deadlifts for peaking though. Like I think it's quite good
Yeah.
that Um, I think it's quite a good tool for that. But yeah, other than that, like, if you're trying to build more general strength, longer ranges of motion, and if you're already squatting, you don't really need to hit your quads too much. So that's where deadlifting can be quite a good tool for
Mm,
just generally getting stronger. And if you get stronger, guess what happens? Your rate of force development improves, your power output will improve as well. Especially if you're a noob, you'll literally get faster just from getting stronger, just
yeah.
because you're producing more force. It's quite good. But to answer the
Yeah. I will
question,
quickly say though, I know you.
no, you go.
Okay, I was just say I'll quickly say because I always have one of our athletes, Adam, in the back of my mind because he's very knowledgeable in this area. And I will say, trap bar deadlifts again. Like I said, they're not my favorite for strength, but there are certain situations where they are going to be beneficial. Let's just say you have an older athlete, maybe they're injury prone, or they can't necessarily get into positions at this point in time. Then that, in that scenario, then they're going to be very useful to build strength. Maybe you have to do a little bit higher reps, upwards of 10 plus reps. Now, if that's the only thing you can do, if you struggle to get into a deep squat for whatever reason, then in that situation, yes, it's going to be useful. I'm not saying they're useless, but I was just talking, again, I didn't want to talk in absolutes before, but obviously there's going to be exceptions. I just wanted to say that before someone
No.
writes in the comments. Actually,
There's so many nuances. There's so many nuances
yeah.
to things, and we definitely can't cover all of them in a 15-minute podcast. But we need to answer the question: do you need to deadlift to jump higher? The answer is simply no. You don't need to. You don't really need to do anything. Can you tick the box of getting your hamstrings, glutes, lower back stronger with other exercises, like doing a Romanian deadlift, like doing hip thrusts, like doing leg curls, like other movements like hyperextensions, blue hand raises, body curls? Yeah, all these are going to develop and get those muscles stronger, and you can achieve similar benefits with them. But is deadlifting a good tool? Absolutely. Like we said before, if you're someone that lacks posterior chain strength, you need to work on your hamstrings and glutes and bring those up, and you need to work on strength. And deadlifting is one of the best tools. And just to clarify as well, is it bad for your back? No, it's not bad for your back if you do it incorrectly or try to load it too fast. Yes, it can be bad for your back. But if you load it appropriately, take it slow and progressively, overload the movement to where you're not trying to rush things too much and your technique is good, you're getting a good amount of leg drive, you're activating your hamstrings, you're activating your glutes, then deadlifts are going to work and they're even going to get your back more healthy and keep it healthy. So it's a double-edged
Mm-hmm.
sword there. They can be the very thing that injure you, but they can also be the very thing that fix you at the same time as well.
Wait, do you know what is bad for you though?
What?
Doing something your body is not prepared for.
Oh,
And
yeah.
that's where you get injured. So, literally anything can injure you. Like, I think I've talked about it before. Like, my mum literally herniated her disc, grabbing a Christmas present and moving it, like, while in a seated position, like, and contorting her body. Herniated one of her discs doing that. So, you know, what your body's not ready for. Or, again, you're loading too much. Not that was really the straw that broke the camel's back. But, she had years and years of being a nurse, lifting people on their beds. So, yeah, nothing's necessarily bad for you by nature, but it's how much you do it and how quickly you add weight or intensity to it. That's where the issue lies.
No, for sure, for sure. So I hope that answers the question for you guys. If you guys want help in terms of programming this movement correctly and executing this movement correctly so you actually end up jumping higher and not getting injured, you can
Mm-hmm.
apply for a link down below for Jumpmaster X and we'll help you do that. If not, that's completely okay as well. We hope this podcast helped you out and we'll catch you guys in the next episode.
See you guys.